Welcome back. Masterpiece, Chapter 23, A Perfect Crime. The following week passed uneventfully. Mama and Papa were thrilled to have Marvin safe at home again. Elaine was delighted to be regaled with more tales of the outside world. The Pompadours, still gloating over the sale of James's drawing, were busy with their usual activities, though briefly inconvenienced when the timer on the microwave stopped working. Fortunately, Uncle Albert was able to maneuver his way through the vents at the back of the oven and reconnect a loose wire. This fixed the problem, though not before the Pompadours had a heated exchange about unreliable foreign appliances. Mr. Pompadour's lack of handiness, and the fact that if Mrs. Pompadour were a real cook, she wouldn't be using a microwave anyway. Their argument ended abruptly when the microwave's clock started blinking again and Albert slipped triumphantly out the back. Mrs. Pompadour, "Oh, look, it's working now." Mr. Pompadour, "See, I fixed it." James himself seemed noticeably more cheerful and confident. Marvin spent nearly every afternoon in his bedroom, and he couldn't decide what accounted for the change. The success of copying Fortitude? The attention from Mrs. Pompadour over his new talent? The excitement of the pending burglary? Whatever it was, James was happy, which made Marvin happy. When Friday came, Carl and James, with Marvin in tow, arrived at Christina's office at exactly 5:30, as she had instructed. Mama and Papa hadn't even put up a fuss about Marvin leaving the apartment this time, since Marvin had spent most of the intervening week extolling the importance of seeing his beloved drawing again for what might be the last time. The burglary had been arranged for that evening, and now that plans were in place, everything seemed to be proceeding very quickly. Christina greeted them warmly, her bright eyes shining when she saw James. She swooped down and hugged him. He looked startled, but Marvin could tell he was pleased. "How's my favorite forger?" she asked, smiling. "Okay," he said. "Ready for a last look at your drawing? It's hanging in the gallery right now, where the original was, and nobody has suspected a thing. Denny helped me make the switch last night. Imagine that, James. All day long, people have been staring at a James Terrick miniature, thinking it's a Dürer." James grinned. "Really?" "Really. When you look at the two drawings side by side, the resemblance is uncanny, and the matting and framing are identical to the original. Denny and I were working on that all day yesterday." "What about the tracking device?" Carl asked. "Oh, the FBI will handle that," Christina said. "But they explained it to us yesterday. Their agent is going to embed a microchip in the matting before he leaves the building." "And it won't set off any kind of alarm?" Carl asked. "When the drawing is taken from the museum?" Christina shook her head. "The microchip will be detected only by the FBI's tracking equipment, not a regular security system. And we don't search visitors exiting the museum, so there shouldn't be a problem. With the tracking unit, the FBI will be able to follow the drawing through the city until it leads you to the thieves," Carl finished for her. "Yes, and hopefully the other stolen drawings." Carl rubbed his beard. "What if the thief takes just the drawing, not the matting? Then you'd lose the tracking device." Christina pursed her lips. I know. We discussed that at length. It's one reason we didn't put the device on any part of the frame. Even if the FBI agent took the drawing as it is, it seems likely the next guy would get rid of the frame for easier transport." She pushed her glasses up more firmly to the bridge of her nose. "But we didn't really have a choice. The microchip would be visible if we put it anywhere on the drawing, because the paper is so old and fragile. If we put it on the matting, well, we all feel more confident the thieves won't see it." She looked at Carl soberly. "But you're right, it is a risk." Marvin could see that James looked worried, and he was beginning to feel a gnawing pit in his own stomach. "Where's the real drawing?" James asked. Christina smiled. "Oh, it is here in my office. I can't tell you how many times Denny and I compared the two to make sure everything looked exactly right. We had it in my office last night. Then we wrapped up the Dürer and sent it to the vault in the director's office for safekeeping." "And what about the FBI guy who's going to take James's drawing?" Carl asked. "Is he here yet?" Christina glanced at her closed office door. No, not yet. It's been a crazy day. I've been so busy with the FBI. I just got back here a little while ago. I'm not supposed to discuss the details. She looked at them apologetically for a moment, then capitulated. Oh, how can I not tell you two when you're the ones who've made it all possible? She took James's hand and pulled him closer, lowering her voice. No one can know anything about this. Do you understand, James? This whole thing depends on the public and the underground art world believing that the real Dürer has been stolen. Carl, James, and Marvin all watched her intently, waiting for her to go on. Christina hesitated. So here's the plan. Tonight, when we're open late until 9 o'clock, about 15 minutes before closing, the guards will clear the galleries. Our contact from the FBI's Stolen Art Unit has a Met Guard uniform. He will come into the gallery with a canvas bag after the public has left. But don't the other guards know one another? Carl asked. Won't they be surprised if they don't recognize him? Christina shook her head. Not on a Friday. On weekends and evenings, we have several fill-in security staff, so that part should be fine. And then he'll just take the picture? James asked. Right off the wall? Marvin felt a strange twinge of foreboding. Christina nodded. He'll have to make sure no one is watching, and he'll have to move quickly. The idea is that he'll slip the drawing into the bag and go immediately to the left-hand supply closet in the gift shop. You've seen the little gift shop on the second floor, just outside the drawings exhibit. We've left that closet unlocked for him. But why? James asked. If he's got the drawing, why can't he just leave with it? Let her finish, James, Carl said gently. He turned to Christina. I'm assuming nobody can walk through the checkpoints carrying a large bag, even a security guard. It's safer not to risk it, she agreed. So we'll have a change of clothes for him in the closet, including a suit jacket with an inside pouch. You know, flat, reinforced, waterproof. That is the right size to hold Fortitude. He'll also find the tools he needs to remove it from the framing material and to install the microchip in the matting. He'll change into regular clothes, put the drawing in the inside jacket pocket, leave the supply closet when he's sure the hallway is empty, and exit with the rest of the crowds as the museum is closing. From beneath James's cuff, Marvin could see Christina's pleased expression, as if the entire plan had been executed flawlessly in the few moments she took to describe it. Wow, James said. Carl nodded thoughtfully. It's the perfect crime. You seem to have thought of everything. Christina frowned slightly. Well, I'd better have thought of everything. There's a lot at stake. He'll only have about 15 minutes to accomplish all this without arousing suspicion, and without another guard noticing the drawing is missing. But if everything goes smoothly, it should work. James rocked nervously back and forth on his sneakers, and Marvin clung to his jacket for dear life. Can I see it now? My drawing? Christina looked at her watch. Oh, I wanted to go with you. I haven't had a chance to go to the gallery all day, but I can't now, unfortunately. Denny and I have to review everything one more time with the FBI agent. Go and have a look. And James? She rested her hand on his head and smiled at him. Don't worry. This isn't the last time you'll see your wonderful drawing. I'm sure of it. James looked up at her suddenly. What about you? Will we see you again? He asked. Startled, Marvin turned to Christina. James had a point, he realized. All the preparations for the fake burglary were finished now, so there would be no further reason to meet with Christina. Not until Marvin's drawing was recovered, if it was recovered. Well, sure we will, buddy, Carl said quickly, sounding embarrassed. Well, you'll let us know what happens, right, Christina? Oh, of course I will. Christina swept a strand of hair off her forehead and tucked it firmly behind her ear, as though all the challenges they faced would be resolved just as easily. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Hopefully, I'll have something to report this weekend. She smiled at them ruefully. But I have to tell you, these FBI people are not very forthcoming. They won't include me in anything. I can't see their tracking equipment. I can't be with them when they monitor what's happening to the drawing. Carl laughed at her. Well, that's not surprising. We're talking about the FBI, after all. It's their job to be secretive. Yes, I suppose so. And at least they've promised to give me updates over the weekend. Who knows? Maybe before too long, I'll have the pleasure of introducing you to Justice herself. Christina beamed at them, hurriedly ushering them out of her office. We can't stay long, Buddy, okay? Carl said as they walked down the long hall and through the hidden door into the drawings room gallery. I promised your mom I'd have you back by 7, and it's after 6 already. Okay, James agreed. I just want to see it, that's all. Okay, James agreed. In the distance, where the gallery opened into the second-floor stairwell, Marvin could see the airy marble hall, flanked by statues and softly lit display cases of vases and bowls. A crush of people in winter coats poured through the gallery entrance. Carl's hand landed on James's shoulder. This way, he said, and then, crouching next to James and pointing across the room, look! And there, right where the original had hung, was Fortitude, the girl's curved arm sturdily clasping the lion. Marvin felt a swell of pride. He held the edge of James's cuff, straining for a better view. James reached for his father's hand, tugging him toward the drawing. It's hanging there with all the real ones, he whispered. Well, it sure looks like it belongs, Carl grinned. You are the master. They threaded their way through the crowd toward the hall, then patiently waited for an older couple to step aside. Okay, 2 minutes, Buddy, Carl said softly. James nodded, staring at the drawing. Marvin wanted to climb higher for a better look, but there were so many people around he didn't dare. Just as he was growing frustrated with his angled, partially obscured view, James raised his arm to his shoulder, pretending to scratch the side of his neck. Grateful, Marvin quickly crawled from jacket sleeve to collar. Now he was almost eye level with the drawing. He took a deep, happy breath and gazed at his work. And then his heart stopped. That wasn't his drawing. It was the Dürer. Dürer! Marvin could tell instantly, but all he felt was confusion. Had he misunderstood? Had they not switched the drawings yet? He was certain he was looking at the original, as faithfully as he had followed Dürer's lines, as carefully and reverently as he'd copied every whirl of hair and bulge of sinew. Marvin knew that the delicate strokes in the artwork before him weren't his. A drawing was as personal as handwriting. Yours might look similar to someone else's, even identical to the eyes of a stranger, but you could always recognize your own. Marvin crawled out from under James's collar. He was fully exposed to the light and air, directly in the sightlines of the surrounding museum goers, but he couldn't help himself. This was the original, as dignified and melancholy and fully Dürer's as it had ever been. His mind raced. Why was the Dürer drawing hanging here instead of the copy? Where was his own drawing? He gripped James's jacket, trying to piece together what could have happened. Christina had said the real drawing was in the museum director's office in a vault. How could this be? Marvin felt a growing sense of dread. He began to run back and forth along the edge of James's collar, frantic. The FBI agent was coming to take this drawing in nearly 2 hours' time. What if Christina had made a mistake? What if somehow she had mixed up the 2 pictures? There was a tracking device, Marvin reminded himself, trying to calm down. The FBI would be monitoring that. But now he had to consider the possibility that the tracking device was about to be affixed to the Dürer original by mistake. And suddenly, Christina's warnings about the danger of the plan, the chance that the drawing would be truly stolen and lost forever, filled his head like a drumbeat. That had been alarming enough when Marvin believed his own drawing was at risk. But now it looked like the real Dürer might be taken from the museum and whisked into that strange, foggy world of art thieves and stolen masterpieces. Above him, Carl and James seemed not to suspect a thing. It's fantastic, James, Carl was whispering. Everything about it looks real. That's because it is real, Marvin wanted to shout. He scuttled back into hiding before Carl could see him, awash in panic. How could he tell them? The real juror fortitude was about to be stolen, just like the other three virtues. Look at the detail, Carl continued. To see a drawing, really see it. It takes time. Yes, Marvin thought. Look at it, James. Look at it. You'll know. But James only stood quietly before the drawing, gazing at it steadily. Finally, Carl said, "We should go. You'll see it again before too long." "No!" Marvin screamed silently. "I hope so," James said uncertainly. He shifted from one foot to the other, hesitating. "Please, James," Marvin prayed. "It's not my drawing." "Come on, Betty." Carl grasped James's shoulder. As James started to turn away, all Marvin could think of was the drawing. He couldn't bear to leave, not knowing what else to do. He rushed to the tip of James's collar, pointed himself toward the wall, and jumped into the void.